do feel that one of the reasons that there's so many failures of first-round draft pick quarterbacks, it's the highest failure rate of any position, is probably because a lot of these guys play before they're ready. And you got a guy like Peyton who actually could go through and have the perseverance to learn from his failings, which more and more of these young guys have a tough time doing that. You know, we create these high expectations for them, so they think they're supposed to come in and be Patrick Mahomes the first time they play, and they're not ready to do that. They don't have that kind of success. They get frustrated. It affects their confidence, and then they don't play very well. So I think it depends on the individual, whether they have the mental toughness to persevere the bad times and learn from them, as opposed to being a guy that sits a little while until they gain the confidence to be able to go out there and play and have success. I think there's only a few people that can fail and still have the chance to succeed and learn from their failings.
Is that number going down, you think, with the new generation? No, I don't want to take a shot at the new generation. They got different things they got to deal with that we could have never even imagined, especially with the amount of things you hear from people that you don't know that you would have never heard in the past. It's a different world. But do you think the mental toughness thing is different nowadays with the generation than maybe in the past?
Well, I just think there's so much more information out there that people get feedback from that we didn't ever have to deal with.
Yeah.
We didn't have to deal with the internet. We didn't have to deal with what everybody thought about what we did or didn't do, how we punted in a game, how we kicked in a game, how we played defensive back in a game, whatever it was. And now these guys have to do that. So they get a lot of self-gratification from what other people think. And when that's positive and it doesn't stay positive, it has a greater impact, I think.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with more things than we ever did.
It's a different world. I mean, I couldn't even fathom. We had AOL Instant Messenger whenever I was in high school. It was like brand new. When you were in high school, when we were in high school. You know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
And that was like the first time you could really message somebody without them seeing your face and maybe meet people from another school. Then Facebook comes and it's like, holy hell, I get a chance to see these people and meet these people that I've never heard before. Nowadays, they open their phone. You got somebody from anywhere in the world potentially burying you or putting you over. It'd be hard not to ride that wave. Speaking of riding waves, hey, the wave's been good for you on College Game Day, hasn't it, boys?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever do one of these? Do you ever just do one of? Do you ever just do one of these right here, Coach? You know, I don't know if you've heard. You and me were on the internet. I was dancing. You were thinking, I believe. You side-eyed the shit out of me. Here it is, right here. You give me a nice side-eye. Right, look at it.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think.
Yeah, you were thinking I was an asshole, which a lot of people did.
I wasn't thinking that.
Oh, okay, good. It's been so much fun, Coach. I want to let you know that. And you have crushed it on TV. Has it gone as smoothly as you thought it would go whenever you decided to sign up full-time College Game Day TV world post-coaching?
Well, I was very much the rookie, learning the ropes, not in terms of having information that you want to put out there, but when to say it, how to respect the people around you, how to have the conversation, how to fit with everybody.
Dance, yeah, we're dancing.
Because we're a team, and every team you have to be able to fit into your role on that team, which I'm really conscious about trying to do. And you've made it easier for me, though. I mean, sitting by you makes it easier for me because I'm less anxious because you are very aggressive in whatever we're talking about or whatever we're doing. Yes. So I didn't know exactly what word to use there, but
that works. Hey, you can use any of them. They would all work. I want to let you know it's an honor to be next to you. And the boys will tell you this. Literally, as soon as that first show ended in Ireland and we started talking about it, it's like getting a chance to work next to you is so cool for all of us. But you're so good, dude. You are very, very good at the television. And we're in a transition time right now. So the fact that you, a man who is the GOAT at your profession, has a chance to kind of say and guide how things could potentially go is a big deal. The boys back in the studio have some questions for you, Coach. Here's from AJ.
Yeah, Coach, one kind of a technical football question for you. If you were Texas's defense and you had to prepare for two different quarterbacks, how do you, what do you do game plan-wise on defense? Do you have two different things? Like, what is the plan going in, then how do you implement that?
Well, they actually used two quarterbacks a little bit last year when we played them in the championship game. So we did have to have a little different plan. You got to kind of take a completely different scouting report on what number 10 is going to do versus, what the other quarterback's going to do. So
polar opposites.
The polar opposites. And you do have to have a different plan. You have to play an 8-man front. You got to make sure you got enough guys up there. The guy can still throw the ball, all right, but you have to be able to stop the run because of creating an extra gap when you have quarterback runs. It's like running a single wing in the old days. So, yeah, you do have to have two different plans completely, in my opinion. The good news is sometimes you play against a quarterback who can do both. All right, that's really a problem because now you got to defend both ends, the passing game as well as the quarterback run, as well as their whole offense and their RPOs and all the things that go with it. When the guy trots in the game, at least you know you can change it up and you know what you have to do to try to stop him.
Yeah, good communication, obviously, amongst the sideline on who's in the game, who's not in the game. I think everybody in Michigan, and this is me just watching the game and thinking, they all hope Orji becomes very, very good through the sky. But any missed pass that he has, they're going to attack him. He had one ball he threw into the dirt, in the flat last week, and the internet was like, what is this guy at college? It's like, that's going to happen. Like, these things are going to happen. But if you have the ability on the ground that he has, obviously that's a massive upside. Speaking of massive upside, I think Sharon Moore has a lot to pull from in this particular game. I don't know, you obviously been a national champion so many times. Post-national championship, no buzz at all for your team to win a national championship. That's obviously a good place for a coaching staff to be. That feels like that's what it is with Michigan right now. Right. Sharon can pull from a lot, right? Because nobody's really projecting. Oregon's coming into the Big Ten. They're going to go to the national championship. USC just beats LSU. Maybe they win a national championship. Ohio State spent $20 million. Maybe shit out of luck, maybe not shit out of luck. They're going to win a national championship. Nobody's talking about the reigning national champs. Feels like that's a good spot for Coach Moore. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think really some of the issues for some of these teams is going to be how do you manage those expectations, aspirations, whatever. Their goals to get in the playoff, which is really not a goal, it's an outcome. There's a difference in those two things. All right, so you should be focused on who do you play next. Like we say, play one play at a time, don't look at the scoreboard. Now we're talking about something that's going to happen in December, in September, when you should be focusing on how do we play the next game? What do we have to do to get better? What do we have to do to finish this game, beat this team, not turn the ball over? So you got to focus on what's in front of you. You can't worry about what's going to happen in December. You got to worry about what do I have to do to get there so we have a chance in December.
No rat poison, though, feels like, for Michigan.
No, they have less. That's why I think it's a good thing for them.
Yeah.
All these teams that we've created all this expectation, like these teams are going to get in the playoffs. That's the rat poison. That's what takes your focus away from who do we playing this week? What do I got to do this week? Who am I lining up against? Might be the best player I ever played against. I need to block the guy. Whatever. Are you thinking about that, or are you thinking about what's going to happen in the playoffs?
I'm worried West Virginia's not going to win the national championship. Yeah, you never know. Tone Diggs has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach. I don't know if you were in these two living rooms recruiting them, but Dylan Raiola and Nico Imaleva looked really, really good in there. What? Did I not nail it?
Imaleva?
Yeah, nailed it.
Sounds right.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
They looked really, really good in their openers last week at home against lesser competition. How much can we take away from that when you have a talented freshman that looks really good in the opener against maybe an FCS school?
Well, we did. I mean, we recruited Nico a little bit more, but I think those guys are both going to be outstanding players. I do think Nico is going to have more opportunity because the offense is quarterback-oriented, even though Tennessee is going to make you stop the run. But they're so spread out, and the defense has to declare itself. And he is very talented in terms of his accuracy, his arm strength, and he doesn't have to read a lot of stuff because a lot of it comes pre-snap for him, which is good for their offense. And he did a great job of executing that in the bowl game last year and this year. Now, Nebraska's offense is a little bit more San Francisco 49er-like, where they're going to run the ball, they're going to throw play-action passes, they're going to have boots, waggles, and all that. So it's not quite as quarterback-oriented, but he did a really good job in the first game as well.
I love a good waggle.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
I love a good boot. I love a good boot and a good waggle.
PA waggle.
Right? How do you feel about, we talked about coaches, I think, a little bit reacting to the first game and having to make in-game adjustments and everything last week. How do you feel about, Dylan Raiola? And it's on a tape tomorrow that I'm going to talk about because I think it's a big deal. He knows the importance of this Nebraska Cornhusker team and tradition and program because his dad, he's walking out for his first game and he's doing one of these. It's like, I feel like you immediately know that this guy's got it. Like this, can you tell that from your players? Is there sometimes whenever you watch a player, when the lights come on and when it matters, you're like, oh, this guy much better in practice than he was in a game? Is that something you can sort in practice and figure out? Like when I see this, I immediately go like, okay, the guy's a guy. Like this is a dude. Is that natural and should I do that? And do you think that's good?
Well, I think I think it's good. I mean, to me, it shows that the guy has confidence. He's walking into a big stage. and he's got confidence in himself. I think that's probably a good thing. I do think that, we talk about how much is a player really focused on what he has to do to play well versus the entertainment aspect of the game. And I think when it comes to college football, we don't define that as well. Like there's controversy about penalties that happened last week, whether that's a celebration penalty, whether it's taunting, whatever it is. But in the NFL, they really define exactly what you can and can't do and what you're going to get a penalty. And as a coach, I always just wanted to know,
where's the line?
Where's the line? So I could go in the team room and say, hey, guys, if you spin the ball, you're going to get a penalty. If you dance, you're not going to get a penalty. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So the player knew what he could and couldn't do.
Teams dancing, I think, is good. Bill Belichick has that do your job, and he highlighted, look at what this team looks like that's celebrating together with your teammates, and then look what a team that isn't looks like. It's a big part of it. And I think it showcases how your team is, too, behind closed doors.
No, I don't think there's any question about that. And teams that celebrate together, that shows a lot of togetherness to me. But I don't know how we got on that subject, but I think...
No, it's with it.
The Nebraska quarterback showed confidence in the game. He didn't play like a freshman. And I think that's really, really important. And it's amazing how mature these guys are when they come in, because quarterback is a position that carries tremendous responsibility. Calling the plays, giving signals, reading the defense. Do I run it? Do I pass it? Do I throw an RPO? I mean, there's so many things in decision-making that these guys have to make. It's amazing that they are ready to do it.
They're so much more mature than we were. I mean, I don't know you whenever you were 18. I think you were calling your own plays maybe in high school, I think is the story that we remember you told us last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody was going to have me call any plays in high school. And 18 years old coming into college, I couldn't even fathom. They got money now. The amount of spotlight, everybody's famous seemingly. All these guys are famous. They have a bunch of followers. Everything they do is getting nitpicked. How they interact with fans, how they interact on the internet is being, and these dudes just seemingly are unflappable. Now, not everybody, but the guys, it's a very mature young group right now.
Well, and I think that the development process that these guys go through in this day and age is completely different than what we did, back in the day. We didn't have all these quarterback camps, quarterback gurus, quarterback coach. I mean, I was a quarterback. I didn't have a quarterback
coach.
You could
spin it too. We remember.
I mean, so their development process, I think, lends itself to a more rapid maturing process.
Can you spin it? You could spin it pretty good.
A little bit back in the day.
For sure.
Still can. Yeah.
Still can.
You threw at practices too for the secondary?
Yeah, I had the best interception arm in the NFL for the 8 years that I coached secondary.
I know, I was pretty good. I throw it in double coverage just like Peyton Manning his rookie year every single time. Connor has a question for you back from the studio.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you about last week's game, Notre Dame and Texas A&M, specifically Marcus Freeman. When they were coming out of the tunnel, he showed a lot of emotion. He was yelling at all of his players, kind of getting them ready to go into a hostile environment. What did you think about that? And also, as a coach, when do you know that you have to do things like this to kind of get your team ready? Because, the story was about how young the offensive line was. You can see the front row there is basically all offensive linemen. Did you like this move? And do you think that it was reflected in the play in Notre Dame throughout the night over there in Texas?
No, I don't think there's any question about it. And I love Marcus Freeman. And I think to a large degree, your team sort of reflects your personality to some degree. And when you got a fiery personality and you're fired up and they know you're fired up, I mean, that means something to players because they feel like you got as much going in it as they do and they want to play for you. And I think Notre Dame played a great game. Defense played great. Riley Leonard did a good job. Tough environment, good defense for the first game, but their defense at Notre Dame was really good.
Is it hot as shit at all those places? Down in Texas, it was so hot. Texas
yeah, it's hot.
Crazy.
Man, it's
and
hot.
loud. And then Alabama, I got 4th degree sunburn whenever I was doing the show on Friday.
Pounds.
Yeah, you just lived in the South for so long. It's just normal now. It's so hot down there, and it feels like it's gonna be perfect up here for the game tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you think this is perfect. You got to wait till December to get a day like this in Alabama.
You still live down? You're Alabama still?
Sometimes in Florida, sometimes at the lake house in Georgia. So.
Oh, I saw you on that boat. You took is that in Alabama where you used to take recruits on the boat? Remember we watched that? I think.
Yeah, I did that in Alabama. We have a lake at Lake Tuscaloosa
couple
too.
lake
Yeah.
houses,
Eli's Places was there.
I got Eli on there. That was the best.
How's the golf game?
I played twice when I went down to Florida, and I didn't play very well.
Oh, no, Coach,
Short
adversity,
game,
though.
short game was bad.
What is a good score, though? What is a normal Saban score in goal?
If I break 80, feel like I played pretty well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say,
Holy
yeah, I'd say. Geez, Lou, of course. Ty has a question for you. Iowa Hawkeye legend.
Yeah, Coach, speaking of Iowa, obviously during your tenure, the Iron Bowl is always at the end of the year. But for this weekend in particular, we have a couple rivalry games, Iowa, Iowa State, and then also Colorado, Nebraska, kind of a renewed rivalry here. Is there anything different as a coach in that week of preparation? Obviously, you're not talking about it that way, but in the eyes of fans, a lot of times your season's success is kind of hinged upon whether or not you win these rivalry games. For the players themselves, I mean, a lot of them, especially in that Colorado-Nebraska game, they haven't played for so long, so I don't know if a lot of the kids understand the rivalry. But as coaches, how do you kind of go into that week in terms of preparation for a big game like this, especially when it's this early in the season?
Well, I'm probably a bad guy to ask that question because we prepared for every game the same.
Yeah, okay.
I
There's
mean-
no such thing as a rivalry game. Every game is a rivalry game because they're playing against us. We hate them. We have a rival.
So if there was a better way to prepare for a game, we'd do it every week because winning every game is really important. But I do think for the players, when they understand the rivalry, but players understand rivalries based on quality. Like LSU was not the biggest rivalry for Alabama when I first came there, but it became that because they were always really good and we got to where we were pretty good. So it became a big rivalry game. And I think Iowa and Iowa State probably, for the fans, having the state pride and all that, go with it. And
It's everything,
which team
Coach.
Do I root for?
It's
everything.
Cyhawk, yeah.
All right, and it's the same thing in Alabama and the Iron Bowl. But at the same time, you want your players to stay focused on what they need to do to play well. And one of the things that in these games that you got to control as a coach is players being too emotional. I mean, players get so emotional, they start making bad decisions and you start getting penalties and things like that. When you're emotional, you don't do intelligent things, you do dumb things. And that's something that you really got to control. You want to have great intensity and play with great intensity, but you can't get emotional where you don't make good choices and decisions about doing your job.
Talking to the Iron Bowl, didn't you guys say you practiced the grave digger or whatever numerous times? That sounded like bullshit to me. You didn't practice it.
Yeah, we did. We practiced it.
No
we
way.
We always practice.
No way. We don't
No
believe
way.
it.
Yeah, that's a load of shit. No way.
Yeah,
you did
they don't
that.
believe it. None of us believe it. None of us. What was it 4th and 30? What was the?
Well, we never necessarily practiced 4th and 30, but we practiced that play in the red zone as a play that you got to score on.
What a moment. What an absolute moment down there. Obviously, it's your last season as the Alabama head coach, and there's going to be moments that are talked about forever. That one is one that's going to be remembered and revered because there was one Alabama fan in the crowd that was like, we got it, believed in you outright. I assume everybody on the sideline believed as well. But as that happens, and then whenever it's caught, you think to yourself, I can't believe this shit just happened. You obviously are stunned, surprised.
I can't really say stunned or surprised. I mean, you look at the play, you watch it from the sidelines, you know how it's developing, you know how the quarterback's supposed to read it, and but
Relieved?
it just happened to work. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes the DB comes back out on the in and back out route and can make the swat, but Isaiah Bond did a good job. Jalen Milroe, that was a hell of a throw.
Dime.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a hell of a throw. I mean, on a rope, and that ball had to travel 45 yards in the air probably, and it was a hell of a throw.
Hell of a time, hell of a play. College football creates those every single weekend. AJ has a question for you, Coach.
Coach, what's the best part about coaching football at any level? What's your favorite thing?
The two things I enjoyed most was, first of all, relationships with the players, trying to help players do what they needed to do to have the best chance to be successful personally, academically, and athletically as a college coach. But the other thing was I really enjoyed the systematic scheming, of a game. Being a defensive coach, taking different offenses and saying, okay, how do we have to play this? How we got to stop the quarterback? What do we got to disguise? What do we got to do? What's the best coverage to play? What's going to give ourselves the best chance? I like that part of it as well.
You talk about relationships with players. Do you know that your players have signed $1 billion worth of deals this offseason in the NFL? Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that. That's great. I'm happy for him. That's great.
That would
Get some
that
of that.
would be that. Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is that's going back to old Nick Saban. How many lake houses we can get in that entire thing? But like that is something that's being chatted about whenever you're recruiting. Obviously not this year, but this is. Hey, it's proven that this was your model. $1 billion in one off season of contracts is absolutely absurd.
It is. But I tell you what, we had a lot of good players. They contributed to the success. I couldn't coach bad players to play good, so I had to go get good players, and we got good players, and we developed them fairly well, and they're doing really well now, and it makes me extremely happy to see them do well, and I hope they continue and have long careers.
Tua signed massive, obviously, and then Patrick Surtain, his second, just signed a massive deal, reset the market. Feels like Alabama guys are doing that time and time again. One of them is playing tonight that reset a market a couple years ago. Had a down end of year last year, offense not great. Jalen Hurts. And obviously, we know him from Alabama, then from Oklahoma, and I think you guys still have a close relationship. What should we expect from Jalen Hurts, whose year didn't end the right way last year? A lot of shit being talked to Jalen Hurts. He's too attractive. He's too cool. He dresses too good, and team stunk last year. Is kind of what Jalen Hurts is hearing from everybody. How do you think he responds, and how do you think the Eagles look tonight?
Well, I know Jalen Hurts is a great competitor, and even when Tua took his place at Alabama, he did everything the right way throughout the next season for the whole season. And when he got an opportunity, went and won the SEC championship game. So this guy's he's made out of the right stuff. So I think he'll take all that stuff and he'll self-assess and try to learn, what do I have to do to play the kind of football I'm capable of, which I'm sure he's disappointed in the way their team ended last season. And I also think that, the Eagles got to make sure they're doing the things that he does well. Because I think at that position, you got to play to the guy's strengths. And I think he can do it all. But I also think he's got to stay positive and be a good team leader. The one thing I always talk to quarterbacks about is that sometimes they get into themselves a little bit, but it's the hardest position in any sport probably to play if the people around you don't play well.
Yeah.
So not to take responsibility and leadership to encourage the guys around you to play well is almost like crazy.
It's wiping before you poop.
Amen.
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, that's what it is. It doesn't make sense. Just
doesn't make sense. That's right.
It does not.
It does not make sense. So to do that and get the whole team to play well around you, I think is also really important for Jalen to be successful.
Well, Coach, you are a quarterback now on game day, and it is an honor to be on your team. We appreciate you so much for stopping by. We'll see you next week. Are you going to quit game day because I was dancing during commercial break? A lot of people were saying that on the internet.
No, I'm thinking about when you're going to ask me to dance.
Well, we did wonder. Lil Jon comes on. You need to snap your fingers, Coach. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe you didn't hear it, though. You might have been listening to the truck at the time. You might have been thinking, but there's so many things that could have been happening at that time.
Yeah, I was just surprised that you were doing what you were doing.
Well, that's going to happen a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm surprised as shit sometimes, too. You should see it. I end up in a situation, I'm like, whoa, how did we end up here? We got to get out of it. Like, for instance, in the front of a muzzle of a cannon. I don't know if you saw that last week. Almost
I did.
Yeah. So that's going to happen. And I appreciate you, Coach. Everything you say, you need to know we're listening.
Yeah, but
all
you
of
got
us.
pretty good instincts to know when to do what.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
You know this TV. He feels like he gets TV.
Oh, yeah. Quick learner.
Probably going to win an Emmy. Probably going to win a Grammy. And I was a cadet last week with old cousin standing too close to the kid. I mean, there's a tree there. Nobody's going to talk about it. Tomorrow should be awesome. Coach, I can't wait to work alongside of you all season. We thank you for stopping by. And